Welcome everyone to this demo video where I'm going to show you how to accomplish Git and MATLAB operation using GitHub and also MATLAB, of course. So most of this video is going to be referring to this slide where we are going to pull a repository from the remote repository to the local repository and the MATLAB sandbox. We're going to do some commits through the sandbox so we can modify the local repository. And finally, we are going to push everything back to the remote repository so that everyone can see what we have done in our local repository. So the first step would be checking out the remote repository. So here we have the remote repository, which I created just a demo repository. We have a simple README file with one line of code, one line of text actually here. So what we are going to do to retrieve this repository is that we are going to go to the repository main page. This can be any repository as long as you have the access to it too. And we can click the green code button and click copy. Once you have the repository link copied, you can go back to MATLAB. So you can see this is an empty workspace in MATLAB. And on the left-hand side, on the blank space, you can click right click and click on source control and manage files. And you can see here the source control integration is already defaultly set to Git. So we can simply worry about the repository path, which is going to be the path that we just copied. And once we did that, we can click retrieve. So this might take a while if it is a large repository, but this is just a small one. So you can see that now the local repository can be seen from the sandbox. And you can see that it is exactly the same as the remote repository here on GitHub. So what we are going to do is we are going to do some modifications. So let's say that I typed something like that. So right now I have made some modification in the local repository through GitHub, and you can actually see that this Git column here, it was originally a green circle and now it changed to a blue square. And if you hover over it, you can see that it says modified. So this indicates that the local repository is already different from the remote repository. So we are right here on this stage where we are on the index, but we haven't commit everything to the local repository. So what we are going to do is we are going to right click here on the left blank space on the left hand side, hover to source control, and you can see that there is a button called view and commit changes. Let's click on it, and you can see that that this is the only file that I've changed, and the comment is update. So commit, and you can see that now the Git column, the icon on the Git column has changed back to unmodified. So let's go back to see the remote repository and see if anything has changed. Oh no, you can actually see that, well, the remote repository hasn't changed anything. Well, if you recall from this chart, we are still at the local repository. So everything we have done using the sandbox, we committed to the local repository, but we haven't pushed anything to the remote repository. So this is why the local repository now is still have some differences when compared to the remote repository. So because we haven't pushed the local repository to the remote one. So what we are going to do now is, again, we are going to hover around the left blank space here, right click, and in source control, you will find the button push. So let's click push. So once it is pushed, when we go back to the remote repository and refresh it, you can see that now the remote repository has been updated. So this is a basic demonstration of how you can use GitHub and also MATLAB to do some amazing collaborative work. So imagine you have a whole team working on a same repository and everyone is going to be updating all their own commits to this repository. So this is actually a really convenient tool for you to do some large scale programming projects. So this is the end of the video, and you can start trying on your own.